that okay? If I can record my own class, is that okay? Can I record my own class with you guys? Is that okay? Okay.
不要紧的，自己拍不到，应该拍不到手机的，我拍了个后脑勺，你在干？
没看到吗？看到吗？他应该录课，他在网上。
教室在这里，我们这个会场嘛，肯定看不见。那个是这样的，
那你来看，录到我的上面，低头玩自己的。你刚看了他。他不会录到我的一个。
如果我们两个到旁边去了，
不到旁边就会发生一些。他海了，我觉得这边的都能烧到的，反正就把一烧到，但从最后这个蛮高的。
头一直接就晚上看不到。
那一本会录音的吧？会录音的吧？
他们太单调了，录音的话就太大了。
然后我们脸皮厚一点，脸皮厚一点。对，我脸皮厚一点。
我来该自己来。Sonia, Yasu, so this is the missing slide from the last class, right? So I didn't have this slide when I was talking to you. This is an example of the international aid and donation and unilateral transfer. This is considered as a non-trade. This is the guy who's donating, not expecting money, right? So he's not actually selling anything. So this is an example. So President Bruce and Nelson enjoyed a long association with the People's Republic of China as a world-renowned heart surgeon and a professor and a church leader. He has forged many lasting friendships and developed a social connection with Chinese people. So he actually donated a lot of masks in the beginning of the pandemic. So there's a huge shipment to medical supplies to China, and he didn't ask for money. So this is kind of a unilateral, as a non-trade, right? Because he's not selling anything, he's kind of donating it. And these are statements of him. These are our dear brothers and sisters. We feel privileged to be able to do some small measure to help, we pray, and then we know that God will bless us. And this is from him, President Nelson. Okay, we stop in the slide 28, right? So a few slides later here. The guy who has a store, he's selling to you, he cannot not accept money. It's against the law. Cash is supposed to be acceptable. For example, if I go there instead of paying him $10, 10 UN, I can go and deliver to him 1,000 coins of one penny. So do you think he's going to be happy if I do this? Especially if I buy something expensive, he's going to take a lot of time just to count the money, right? This is time consuming. And maybe he lost count in the middle of it. So this is a kind of a size problem there when you have doing trading, right? So this is why banks step in and get into the place of helping to do this, right? Because for example, let's say if I have to give you gold for paying you back from the shipment or the goods that you send it to Brazil. Now you need to verify the quality of the gold, you need to weigh the gold to see if you have the amount is correct, right? You need to verify the purity of the gold, because purity is related to the value of the gold. So there's a lot of problem when you pay in cash, right? So it needs to be something that's easy to count, no problem to count, very, very fast, that can be transferred. Gold is heavy, right? I also need to ship gold. When you ship the merchandise, I have to ship you back gold. It's going to take time. So the development of the international setting has to do with all those things. So here's the way of non-cash settlement. So for example, this is an example of a non-cash settlement. How does it help do the international settlement? So let's try to understand it, right? So this person here is in New York, and this person here is in New York, and this one is in Japan, right? Both in Japan. So let's do another example here, right? This side of this class here is Japan, and the other side there is China, okay? Now we are going to buy, I want to buy something from China. Let's say I'm going to import some meat from China, and I need to pay 1 million to Chinese people. So I'm going to buy it from Bob. So Bob, do you have a meat there to sell to me? Okay, so I'm going to buy $1 million in meat, okay? So now he needs to ship the meat for me, and I need to ship the money for him, right? This is one situation. Now let's see the other situation. Now here's, what's her name again? Cindy. Now Cindy wants, I am buying from Japan, right? But now Cindy wants to sell his cell phones to Japan. She didn't want to buy, she wants to sell, right? And she wants to buy from, what's her name again? Huh? Your name? Zoe? Okay. She wants to buy from Zoe, right? And okay, now she's asking, well, do you want to buy the phones from me? And you say, yes, okay. Now see the situation. I need to send $1 million to Japan. And Zoe needs to send $1 million to China, to Cindy. So is there a better way that we can sell this? And this is, we're going to talk about the commercial purpose. Instead of me sending money to Bob, and she's sending money to Cindy here, so the money goes to Japan and now come back. Why do I, instead of sending to Japan, I send it directly to Cindy? So I avoid the whole transaction of money going to Japan and then coming back to China. So this is going to be seen here. So let's see the example here. It's the same thing. In the chart before, we suppose that a New York importer A wants to purchase cotton from the US $1 million from Tokyo, export B. So this A wanted to buy from B, right? And another Tokyo here, the other side, importer C, wants to buy corn from US 1 million from another importer for D. So we have the same transactions, right? One side wants to buy, the other side wants to sell. So that if the money goes to the wrong way, it goes to Japan and then comes back, right? But now we can do like this. Then the payment procedure should be like this. B, here, in New York, draws a draft worth 1 million on C for his export and transfer it to A. So he draws a draft on C and transfer the draft to A. Who will be paid by paying D 1 million in New York instrument market. A sends the draft to B as a payment for his import. Upon receipt of the draft, B presents to C. So B now presents to C for payment. And after verifying that the draft, C makes payment to B. In this way, two debts between America and Japan have to be liquidated through a money order instead of actually sending the real money. So it makes the transaction better. Because, for example, you're not the only one who export in China, and the other countries are not the only one who are buying. So there's a lot of buying and selling happening between countries. So there's maybe a better way of doing this instead of doing the transaction all the way. And this is the kind of the example that you can see that helps the settlement happen. Any questions on this? Did you got the idea how the tools are helping the people make more transactions? Credit worthiness. If someone with credit, with a trusted reputation, vouch your business, you're more likely to do it because somebody's guaranteed they're not going to lose money. But for example, let's say I'm going to do business with you. I don't really know you. How long you been in business? How long your company been in business? 2 years. I never heard about your company. Can you give me some sample of your product, or maybe someone who are doing business with you that can vouch for you? See, this is what happened, right? I'm not from this country. I don't know her company. I don't know a lot of things about this business, right? But I'm interested in her product. Maybe she said something like this. Well, you know, Bank of China? Yes, I know Bank of China. So the Bank of China is going to vouch. It's going to give me, it's going to guarantee that you're going to receive your merchandise. It's changed the whole history. I don't need to keep asking her a lot of questions because why am I doing this for? Because I wanted to trust her. I wanted to get to know her business. I want to know if she's not cheating other clients, right? Now that I have someone with a good reputation, big institution, is giving me credit, not credit, is giving me the guarantee. Well, I vouch for this transaction. If you do this, I guarantee you're gonna have your money, or you're gonna have your product. Now the transaction is gonna be much easier for me to try to do this. So, with abundant capital and outstanding creditworthiness, those banks not only establish branches in a home and abroad, which are engaged in business of deposit, lending, and remittance, but also build extensive correspondent relationship with foreign banks. So there's a big street in my city, very famous city, and there's one big building there. In the bottom of the building is a Chinese bank. My city is not the biggest in Brazil, but now I remember, right? So those big banks can open branches in the country that they're doing a lot of business. It's going to facilitate a lot, right? It maybe can prevent me. I don't need to come to travel to China. I go to their branch in my own city, right? So this is do a lot of for helping business to do some transactions, increase their trust, and everything else. Insurance like this, so you make sure your product is going to get there sound and safe, the transportation is good, and this is done by creating some tools again, right? So for example, when you go to the post office and you ship something to whatever it is, what do you have back in your hand to prove that you did this? You probably get a receipt, right? You pay this amount of money, right? So what else does have in your receipt? For example, when you pick up a box, right? A box you're going to send to Brazil in the post office. So what's the process? Right? The receipt is going to show you what? How much you pay. What else? What else? Does the receipt only show how much you pay? I doubt not. It has some more information. What is the other information? Your name. What else? Huh? Date. What else? Huh? Sorry? Address. Okay. What else? What about the product itself? How much does it weigh? Right? It's heavy or light? What else? The number, maybe the number, or maybe, for example, the size of the box. For example, you may have some limitation. You cannot send a box this big in the post office. Maybe you have some limits, right? So when you're dealing with the transportation, there's a lot of things that you can have the information. So they're creating this. We're going to be seeing this the whole semester. This is the view of lending. This is the documentation that has the information about your as a seller, the other guy as a buyer, the information about what is inside of the box, the expiration date, the weight, the value, many information. And sometimes you don't need to see what is in the box. You trust the document. Right? For example, sometimes you go to pick up the box, you don't even go and look inside it, but you wanted to have the information from it. Right? So this is what they're saying. Thus, the bill of landing and insurance documents are created, standardized, and eventually become negotiable instruments itself. So, for example, you can negotiate stuff using the documents, not even the real thing anymore. Right? We're going to see this more clearly as we go on. So this is a very important distinction. I remember when I was learning about this stuff many years ago, what is the difference between SIF and FOB? So this is one of the things that we're going to be talking a lot if you're, for example, sending stuff to other countries. So who is responsible for the transportation? Is it going to be me as a seller, or is it going to be you as a buyer? This is what it is about, okay? So, for example, SIF, the seller is responsible for costs, liabilities until buyer receives the goods. So the company is responsible for paying the transportation, until the guy who's buying receives it. But here's the other situation. It's not the company here anymore. So the buyer, not the seller, is responsible for the costs, liabilities, once goods are shipped. Okay, this is two very distinct acronyms for those things, right? SIF is the company, and FOB is the buyer, who is responsible. For example, maybe you see this when you're buying online. For example, a lot of companies put out a free shipment, right? If you're living in this area, it's a free. We don't charge you anything. So the company is responsible for the shipment, right? But I noticed, I don't know if this is the case here in China, but there are some other places that you can buy. You can have the option, right? How do you want to receive your shipment? Do you want the mail, normal post? Do you want express post? Do you want to add insurance? Right? So there are some other options available. So this is what they're talking about here, right? And when you're doing this for other countries, this is the acronym that talks about. Meanwhile, price terms such as FOB or SIF have become a common practice for all countries to follow. Those all contribute to the replacement from cash on delivery to payment against documents, because the document can represent the goods. Buyer pay funds against documents instead of goods, and furthermore, banks fulfill payment obligations on the basis of documents rather than goods. Take the letter of credit, for instance. Banks must undertake the due obligation to pay just on the condition that it stipulates documents complying with the terms and conditions of the letter of credit are submitted to whatever the goods are. See, now the document is becoming very important. It even can have some instructions. Only, for example, banks only supposed to deliver the payment as this condition is met. So this is kind of put some security measures for the buyer who is buying, right? For example, in my transaction when I bought this equipment, the Weibo, whatever, was just only freeing the money for the guy as long as I received the shipment and said, well, you can have the money, right? And contrary-wise, banks can refuse to pay if the goods comply with the terms of the contract while document doesn't comply with the letter of credit. In this way, banks can stay aside from the trade disputes between buyers and sellers, and be convenient to handle international settlement business with the business with little expertise of goods. Since the documents can represent the goods, banks can not only clear debts and claims between trade parties, but also finance exporters and importers on the basis of pledged documents. Exporters can obtain the advance payments for banks by submitting complying documents. Okay, let's have our break. Okay, I'm going to stop it here. I know that sometimes it's a lot of information, right? But you need at least to have some grasp of the understanding. What is behind when you're dealing with other countries, right? For example, sometimes you see things working, but you never talk about how many systems there's behind to make all this work, right? So there are some systems to make the payment happen. They have some laws, best practices to make things more smooth, right? Because there are different people, different cultures, we see things different. And we try to do one thing in common. So we need to understand that you're not going to be doing your way, you're not going to be doing my way, but maybe in the middle, right? One way that works for both of us. And this is all about making systems of payment, of negotiation, of laws that actually is good for everybody. And there's a lot of technicalities, right? A lot of information when those countries get together, when they make those laws, those conventions, what are those systems all about? I know it's a lot to take, but I hope to make it happen better for you, right? Any questions? So today you are free of homework. Because I did not finish it. But on Friday I'll finish this one. And then you have your homework for the next week.
中午是晚上楼上的4楼的4食堂的